Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today's episode is an exciting one because it's not just about the future of life sciences, it's about how companies actually survive long enough to make it there.
In this industry, innovation alone doesn't guarantee success. You can have groundbreaking science, brilliant founders, and an incredible mission, but without a solid financial foundation that aligns with your regulatory and operational strategy, it can all fall apart fast. That's exactly why Emma International has launched financial services, a new offering designed to help startups and emerging growth companies strengthen financial resilience while navigating complex regulatory landscapes.
Financial services is about building that bridge between finance, compliance, and growth. It's a system that helps companies align cash flow, capitalization strategy, and operational efficiency with the pace of R&D, quality, and regulatory milestones. Because in life sciences, every financial decision is also a compliance decision, whether companies realize it or not.
At its core, financial services is built for innovators who are trying to scale smartly in a heavily regulated world. It's not about cutting corners, it's about planning better. It's designed for founders, CFOs, and investors who want financial strategies that evolve alongside scientific and regulatory progress.
The first piece of the service is strategic financial planning for regulated growth. This means building financial models that actually reflect development and regulatory timelines, from preclinical through post market commercialization. Too often, startups underestimate the financial impact of compliance activities, like validation testing or submission preparation. Financial services integrates those milestones directly into financial plans, so nothing gets overlooked or underfunded.
The second component is investment readiness and capital strategy. In life sciences, investor confidence depends on more than having an exciting technology. It depends on having governance and transparency that prove a company can execute responsibly. Financial services helps companies prepare for that level of scrutiny by building investor ready documentation, performing due diligence preparation, and tying valuation models to regulatory risk profiles.
Then there's operational efficiency and cost optimization. This is where startups can really gain control. Life sciences companies are under constant cash flow pressure, especially during early stage development and validation. Financial services helps identify inefficiencies across departments, analyze fixed versus variable costs for outsourced work, and rationalize vendor contracts so money is being used strategically without compromising compliance.
The next step is revenue and commercialization modeling, which connects regulatory strategy to commercial reality. As companies move toward market entry, it's not enough to just have FDA clearance or CE marking. You need to understand your pricing, reimbursement, and ROI across global markets. Financial services helps forecast revenue based on real world launch scenarios, indication expansion, and even technology transfer partnerships.
The fifth component, compliance and risk management, ties it all together. This part of financial services ensures that financial systems are audit ready, grant compliant, and aligned with the same rigor as a company's quality management systems. It's the layer that keeps innovation sustainable long after the product hits the market.
What sets Emma International's financial services apart is its integrated approach. Traditional financial consultants focus on capital or cost efficiency. Emma brings in experts who understand finance and FDA expectations. The consultants behind this program come from biotech finance, regulatory affairs, quality systems, and life science operations. That means the financial plans being built aren't theoretical, they're grounded in what it actually takes to bring a regulated product to market.
This cross functional expertise gives clients a single partner who speaks both languages, the financial language of investors and the regulatory language of the FDA, EMA, and global authorities. It's a rare intersection, and it's where the real value lies.
So, whether a company is moving from concept to IND, scaling clinical operations, or preparing for a Series B or IPO, financial services gives them the structure to do it with confidence. It's about turning financial complexity into strategic advantage.
And that's the key idea. Life sciences isn't just about innovation, It's about sustainable innovation. Financial services helps organizations build a financial system that can support that kind of growth, not just through the next funding round, but through commercialization, audits, and global expansion.
Let's really unpack how this plays out in the real world because what we're talking about isn't just financial theory, it's what makes or breaks companies in this industry.
One of the biggest pain points we see is early stage financial planning that doesn't match the actual regulatory journey. A lot of startups create their budgets based on development phases: discovery, preclinical, clinical, but they don't map those directly to submission milestones or validation requirements.
That leads to a lot of surprises later on. Suddenly, the company realizes they need an extra $500,000 for validation testing or supplier audits, and that's money they didn't plan for. Financial services helps prevent that by designing financial plans that follow the real rhythm of regulated growth.
A great example is a small biotech moving from preclinical to IND. The science was solid, but their cash flow model didn't account for analytical method validation or the cost of pre-IND meetings with FDA. Those two steps alone delayed their submission by 6 months. By restructuring the financial model around the regulatory timeline and modeling each milestone against real cost data, the team was able to forecast more accurately. And when the next round of funding came, investors were immediately more confident.
That's a huge part of this. Investor confidence. In life sciences, it's not just about how much capital you raise, it's how you use it. Investors want to see discipline. They want to see that your financial operations are as rigorous as your clinical data.
That's where the investment readiness side of financial services comes in. Emma helps companies prepare for diligence, not just by cleaning up their numbers, but by aligning their financial story with their regulatory one. For example, if a company is planning a phase 2 trial, its financial plan should clearly tie into the clinical operations timeline, vendor selection, and data management costs.
That changes conversations with investors entirely. Instead of defending gaps, you're showing that you understand the business of compliance, which is one of the biggest differentiators for startups in this space.
What's interesting is that financial services doesn't just fix immediate issues. It helps companies think differently about financial structure. Too often, finance in startups feels reactionary. This approach turns it into something strategic, a tool for decision-making, not just reporting.
That's especially critical in a regulated industry because every financial decision is a regulatory decision. The two are tied together whether you realize it or not.
Another key area is operational efficiency. Cash flow is always tight in early stages, but you can't cut corners in compliance. Financial services helps identify where to trim without adding risk. Consolidating vendors, structuring fixed versus variable costs more strategically, or building internal systems that support audits instead of working around them.
The program is fully customizable, and that's what makes it powerful. Emma has worked with companies at every stage, from early biotech startups in discovery mode to established medtech firms expanding globally. Every engagement looks a little different, but the goal is the same: align financial health with regulatory readiness.
And as companies grow, those needs evolve. Early on, it's about surviving the preclinical to clinical transition. Later, it's about preparing for commercialization. Things like pricing, reimbursement modeling, and ROI forecasting.
That transition is tough. Going from a development mindset to a commercialization mindset means shifting how you think about money. Financial services provides the framework for that shift. As companies approach market entry, the team helps model out different pricing and reimbursement scenarios by comparing US and EU markets, payer trends, and timing risks. That's how companies plan realistic revenue without overpromising.
And then comes governance. As revenue starts coming in, financial oversight becomes even more critical. Financial services helps organizations put controls in place early: audit readiness, cost tracking for grants, clear reporting structures, to ensure they can scale without compliance gaps.
That's where Emma stands out. So it's not about cleaning up spreadsheets. It's about integrating financial, regulatory, and quality expertise so everything connects. That connection is what allows companies to scale sustainably, not just to approval, but through commercialization, global expansion, and beyond.
Financial services were designed to be exactly that life cycle support. They evolve with the company, from startup to established enterprise. Whether it's preparing for an audit, a Series B, or a global launch, the foundation is the same clarity, compliance, and confidence.
That's what defines long term success in the life sciences industry. And that's exactly what this new service delivers.
The truth is, most startups don't fail because the science isn't strong or the market isn't there. They fail because they run out of time, and time runs out when financial and operational planning aren't connected. That's what financial services is built to change.
In the life sciences sector, timelines are unpredictable, regulatory reviews get extended, manufacturing validation can hit snags, or investors may delay funding rounds. A company's ability to absorb those shocks depends entirely on how well its financial system is built. Financial services helps companies prepare for uncertainty, not just to survive delays, but to manage them strategically.
One of the biggest mistakes early stage companies make is treating financial modeling like a one time exercise. But in a regulated space, it's a living process. Every submission, every inspection, every new market entry changes your cost structure and cash position. Financial services turns financial management into a dynamic system that evolves in real time with your business.
That adaptability matters even more when you think about investor relationships. Whether it's a seed round, Series B, or an IPO, investors want proof that the company's financial and regulatory strategies are moving in sync, as they want to know that you're not just compliant, but capable of scaling compliance as you grow.
That's where the investment readiness piece really shines. Financial services helps companies go beyond a clean spreadsheet. It gives them a story that investors understand and regulators trust. When due diligence begins, investors want to see how a company is managing capital in relation to risk, how resources are being allocated to testing, validation, and market entry. Emma International helps teams connect those dots clearly.
And it's not just for biotech. Financial services is equally powerful for medtech, diagnostics, and digital health companies. Each of these sectors faces unique challenges, whether it's proving clinical validity for a software as a medical device product or meeting quality standards in a contract manufacturing environment. The financial implications of those requirements are huge, and without integrated planning, they can derail even the most promising startup.
Let's take an example. A digital health company working toward FDA clearance for a connected monitoring platform was preparing for a funding round. Their burn rate looked high to investors, but what wasn't obvious was that 40% of those costs were tied directly to required verification and validation testing. Once we reframed the financials to reflect that those costs were not overhead, but regulatory investments, the perception shifted completely. That round closed faster and with stronger valuation because the investors finally understood the story behind the numbers.
That's the kind of clarity that financial services brings to the table. It bridges the communication gap between finance and regulation, two worlds that rarely speak the same language.
Another major advantage is risk management. In today's market, compliance risk is financial risk. A single finding during an FDA inspection or audit can lead to remediation costs that cripple cash flow. Financial services helps companies set up governance systems early, so they're not reacting after the fact, but proactively preventing costly mistakes.
And that's the key word here, proactive. So many financial decisions in life sciences are made under pressure. By introducing structure early, forecasting, cost allocation, vendor oversight, and resource planning, companies can make smarter decisions before those pressures build.
Operational efficiency also plays a critical role in this. As companies grow, complexity multiplies. More vendors, more projects, more global operations. Financial services helps organizations streamline processes before that complexity becomes chaos. That might mean consolidating vendors, mapping fixed and variable costs, or reevaluating which activities should be kept in-house versus outsourced.
All of this ladders up to something bigger: resilience. Financial resilience isn't just about having enough capital, it's about knowing how to use it strategically and flexibly. In an industry where every stage is gated by regulation, you need a system that can adjust without breaking momentum.
What makes financial services unique is that it's not a financial product. It's a financial infrastructure. It's the connective tissue that links R&D, operations, regulatory milestones, and investor expectations. It creates a single, coherent view of a company's financial health across every stage of growth.
And it's not just for early stage companies. Even established firms benefit from a clearer link between compliance and finance. As organizations expand globally, they face new layers of reporting requirements, tax implications, and supply chain dependencies. The same principles that help startups scale can help larger companies stay efficient and audit ready as they diversify.
Ultimately, that's the purpose behind EMMA, International's Financial Services, to give life sciences companies the foresight, structure, and strategic alignment they need to grow confidently in one of the world's most demanding industries.
Because when finance and compliance work together, not as separate silos, but as a unified system, that's when innovation truly becomes sustainable.
One of the biggest differentiators with financial services is the way it supports fundraising strategy. In the current investment climate, especially in biotech and medtech, investors are being more cautious. They're not just looking at scientific milestones, they're scrutinizing how companies manage risk, spend capital, and plan for regulatory delays.
That's why financial storytelling has become just as important as technical storytelling. You can have the best molecule or device in the world, but if investors can't see a clear financial roadmap that aligns with your regulatory path, they'll hesitate. Financial services bridges that gap by helping founders and CFOs translate regulatory progress into investor language.
It's about reframing the conversation. Instead of saying we're waiting on FDA feedback, it becomes we've modeled our next capital raise based on the projected timing of our Type C meeting, and we've built a 6-month buffer for any additional data requests. That level of discipline shows maturity, and it builds trust.
Financial services also supports companies during due diligence. This is where many early stage startups stumble. During an investor audit or a merger review, financial gaps can raise red flags. Emma's consultants prepare teams by building out investor ready models, organizing audit documentation, and ensuring that every financial claim can be traced back to operational evidence. It's the kind of rigor that not only protects credibility, but also accelerates deal timelines.
Another strength of the program is how it helps companies adapt as they grow. A startup preparing for a Series A has very different needs than a company entering Phase 3 trials or planning an IPO. Financial services evolves alongside those needs. Early on, it's about runway and burn rate. Later, it's about cost of goods, commercialization forecasting, and revenue cycle management.
And this evolution isn't theoretical, it's built into the structure. For example, a company that starts out using financial services for budgeting and vendor oversight can later expand that relationship into full scale commercialization modeling, reimbursement forecasting, and post market cost tracking. It's truly end to end financial lifecycle support.
Another area where financial services makes a real impact is cross-functional alignment. In many organizations, finance, regulatory, and quality teams operate in silos. Finance might not fully understand why certain testing costs are non-negotiable, while regulatory teams might not see the financial strain those requirements cause. Financial services creates a common framework where these teams can plan together, so decisions made in one department don't derail another.
That's a game changer for communication and accountability. When finance understands the why behind compliance costs and regulatory understands the financial constraints, companies can find smarter, faster ways to achieve the same goals.
And that brings us to governance, one of the pillars of long-term stability. As life sciences companies grow, they face more scrutiny, internal, regulatory, and financial. Audits, grant reporting, investor updates, and board oversight all demand consistent, transparent documentation. Financial services helps organizations build governance structures that scale.
That might mean creating standardized financial SOPs, audit ready reporting templates, or compliance integrated dashboards that track both financial and regulatory performance. It's not just about surviving audits, it's about being perpetually ready for them.
There's also a global element to consider. As more life sciences firms expand internationally, they face different accounting standards, funding mechanisms, and regulatory reporting expectations. Financial services incorporates global best practices so that when a company moves from the US to the EU or Asia Pacific markets, their financial and compliance systems are already aligned with local requirements.
This global foresight is particularly valuable when companies pursue partnerships or licensing agreements. Global expansion introduces complexity, transfer pricing, cross border audits, multi currency budgeting, and each of those financial layers has regulatory implications. Financial services helps companies navigate those challenges without slowing their momentum.
It's easy to think of this as just a financial solution, but it's much more than that. It's about strategic readiness, having the systems and insight to make faster, smarter decisions when opportunities or challenges arise.
And that's the real value: control. In an industry that's constantly changing, from regulations to investor expectations, financial services gives organizations control over their financial and operational destiny. They can see risks before they become crises, plan for the unexpected, and communicate their value clearly to both investors and regulators.
So when we talk about financial resilience, it's not about being reactive, it's about being prepared. It's about turning financial systems from a source of stress into a source of strength.
Financial services isn't just another offering, it's a framework for building companies that last.
When we talk about scaling a life sciences company, it's easy to focus on science and operations, expanding lab capacity, hiring talent, or moving into new markets. But what often gets overlooked is that financial scalability is just as important as operational scalability. Without the right systems in place, even the strongest science can collapse under the weight of growth.
Financial services were designed to help companies scale intelligently. That means building infrastructures that can support the demands of commercialization, everything from managing vendor relationships to forecasting revenue across multiple markets. For companies entering late stage clinical or early commercial phases, those transitions are some of the most financially volatile moments they'll ever face.
Let's take a real world example. Imagine a biotech preparing to commercialize its first FDA approved therapy. Overnight, its cost structure changes. Clinical spending decreases, but manufacturing, marketing, and distribution costs skyrocket. Financial services helps companies anticipate that pivot long before it happens, so they're not scrambling for capital when commercialization begins.
It's about designing financial models that predict transformation. When your business evolves, your budgets, metrics, and financial controls have to evolve too. If they don't, cash flow gaps appear. And in this industry, a few months of unplanned delays can be catastrophic.
Another key element of financial services is commercialization modeling. For many life sciences companies, market entry isn't just about launching a product. It's about launching into the right markets, at the right price, under the right reimbursement conditions. Financial services integrates those variables into financial forecasting, aligning market access strategies with revenue projections.
That's particularly valuable in the US, where reimbursement complexity can make or break a product. For example, understanding how Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services (CMS) reimbursement rates affect cash flow in the first 6 months post launch is critical. Many companies underestimate the time it takes for revenue to start flowing, and that can create liquidity challenges. With financial services, those reimbursement timelines are baked into the model, ensuring companies plan with realism, not optimism.
Globally, this becomes even more nuanced. Pricing and reimbursement vary across Europe, the Middle East, and Asia, and so do regulatory approval timelines. Financial services incorporate that variability, helping companies evaluate whether to prioritize rapid launch in one market or staggered entry across several. It's not just about financial gain, it's about sustainability and compliance.
Speaking of sustainability, there's another side to financial services that's becoming increasingly relevant: ESG integration. Investors, regulators, and even procurement partners are asking tougher questions about environmental and governance practices. Emma International's team helps clients map those ESG factors into financial strategy. whether that means assessing the cost of greener manufacturing materials, energy efficient facilities, or more transparent supplier oversight.
That's a huge differentiator in today's market. Financial resilience isn't just measured in dollars, it's measured in trust. When investors and regulators see that a company's financial strategy accounts for social and environmental impact, it signals long term thinking and responsible governance.
Another area where financial services drives value is in post market operations. Once a product is launched, the financial and compliance pressures don't ease, they shift. Companies have to manage royalties, post market surveillance costs, global supply chain fluctuations, and sometimes even recalls or field actions. Financial services creates forecasting models that include these possibilities, giving leadership teams the ability to act decisively rather than reactively.
And this is where the life in financial services really comes through. It's not a one time engagement, it's continuous partnership. Emma International doesn't just hand companies a model and walk away. They evolve the strategy alongside the company's life cycle, ensuring that as new regulations emerge or the market shifts, the financial and operational frameworks evolve too.
It's this combination of foresight, flexibility, and accountability that makes financial services so powerful. The same discipline that keeps a company compliant with FDA or EMA standards is what keeps it financially sustainable.
So, in essence, financial services create what you might call strategic clarity. Companies know where they are, where they're headed, and what it will take to get there financially, operationally, and compliantly. It's the difference between growth and sustainable growth, and in the life sciences sector, that difference can define whether a company thrives or disappears.
When you look at the life sciences industry as a whole, one pattern becomes clear. Companies that last are the ones that plan beyond the science, the ones that understand that innovation doesn't exist in isolation. It's fueled by sound financial strategy, strengthened by compliance, and sustained by operational excellence.
That's exactly what Emma International's financial services were built to deliver. They're not just about managing cash or cutting costs. They're about creating a system where financial health and regulatory integrity move in lockstep. Because in this industry, every decision, scientific, operational, or financial, ripples across the entire organization.
Think about what happens when those pieces come together.
A biotech company can raise capital faster because its financial models are backed by validated regulatory timelines.
A medtech startup can scale globally with confidence because its financial governance is audit ready from day one.
An established manufacturer can optimize its costs without risking compliance because every process is connected to a measurable financial outcome.
That's not just management, it's strategy in motion.
And that's why this new service is such a milestone for Emma International. It builds on everything the company already does best: compliance, quality, and operational excellence, and takes it one step further, integrating finance as the fourth pillar of sustainable growth.
At its core, financial services is about helping life sciences innovators reach patients faster, safer, and stronger. It's about building organizations that can withstand challenges, whether that's regulatory change, market pressure, or investor scrutiny.
Because the reality is, financial resilience is innovation resilience. If your systems are transparent, your data is credible, and your strategy is clear, you don't just survive, you thrive.
For startups listening today, this is the kind of framework that can make or break your trajectory. For established firms, it's an opportunity to strengthen your foundation and future proof your operations. Either way, the message is the same. The companies that plan ahead are the ones that move ahead.
If you'd like to learn more about Emma International's financial services and how they can support your growth, you can visit emmainternational.com or reach our team directly at info@emmainternational.com.
Thank you for joining us for this special episode of The Deep Dive. We'll continue to explore the conversations shaping the future of life sciences, from regulatory transformation to the evolving business of innovation.
Until next time, stay safe, stay compliant, and stay innovative.